You're at Edge Match. Edge Match. Don't miss Edge Match. Don't miss Edge Match. You're at Edge Match. Edge Match. Don't miss Edge Match. Don't miss Edge.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. So we're super excited to launch our latest book. We have in the house with us today Dr. Nick Sutton, as well as other authors and contributors of the Post-COVID School. So we're super excited to chat with all of you and to get word about this amazing project out to the EduMatch community. So we're going to go ahead and kick things off with introductions. So if you all could please introduce yourselves, and we'll start with Dr. Nick, and then after that, people can just kind of popcorn in.
No, I love it. No, thank you for letting me be here. Nick Sutton. I am a superintendent here in Illinois, kind of in the Chicagoland area, and I was fortunate enough to work with a bunch of individuals, some of which we got on here tonight to kind of bring this to fruition.
Excellent. Well, welcome, and welcome to everyone. So anyone else who wants to pop in and introduce themselves, please go right ahead.
I'll chime in. Hi, my name is Dr. Tina Halliman. I'm the superintendent of currently of a special ed cooperative. Had the pleasure of meeting Nick when he sat on one of my boards from a member district of my cooperative. So it's a pleasure to be here this evening.
Welcome. Pleasure to have you.
Hi, I am Jessica Donaldson, and I'm a behavioral health consultant here in Central Illinois. I'm working at one of our regional Office of Education. And I actually have known Nick for a little while now. We started a school-based mental health program together. So I'm pretty excited to be working on our second project together with this book.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Well, welcome to you.
Ben Dixon. I am the principal at a pre-K-5 elementary in Reno, Nevada. So currently, as we record this, at school working. My amazing dean is hanging out. We share an office. So that's me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. All right. Welcome to you.
My name is Holly Williams. I am an instructional technology coach as well as a district librarian in Central Illinois.
All right. Welcome. Welcome. So we have a great panel with us right here, and we may have some other guests who pop in as well. And if not, then we still have a full house of some amazing people who have written some amazing chapters. So super excited to find out more about you all and find out more about the book. So let's go ahead and kick this off with the first question. What was the inspiration behind writing the Post-COVID School? And also any of the author chapters can chime in after Dr. Nick to just kind of share about your chapter. What was your inspiration behind the chapter?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it was just like reflecting back to what it was like when everything was kind of unfolding with the pandemic, because there was all these Zoom meetings and meetings through video where people were just trying to sort through, okay, what do we do? How do we do this? And like, you know, once you kind of got past the layers of being stressed out and overwhelmed, there were all these different people that had very different perspectives and expertise within public education that was like, hey, I really think we should approach it this way. And this is how I think it's going to be now moving forward as a result of this. And it was like, okay, yeah, wait a minute, this makes sense to me. Like I wanted to kind of be a part of a group that would kind of put a lot of this together. And so it kind of became between my own networking, my own professional career, some of the social media stuff that I've fallen into, my own podcasting, where it was like, I started thinking of all these people where I'm like, I know so-and-so that really knows a lot about this. And I know somebody else that really knows a lot about that. And it would just be cool to say, let's put this together. Because I tried to write the book that I wish existed when we were about 6 months into this pandemic.
I'm Dr. Halliman. I wrote the chapter on the impact of COVID on special education. And special education has been my passion for many years. My inspiration, this is my second career. I was in mental health and social work prior to this and ended up in education from a friend who dared me to apply for a program. But that skill set worked perfectly with this group, this population. I'm a superintendent now, and even though I'm a superintendent at a co-op, I was a superintendent at a regular district as well. But my mission is to always ensure that all kids are at the table in our decision making, and that includes special needs kids. So when you read my chapter, there's an extensive section on the history of special education here in America. It will blow your mind. So I even had to go back to school when I went to write this book, and it is very hard to read, and the terminology is very hard to read, how we reference some students with special needs throughout our history and not too long ago. So that's my inspiration for writing my chapter.
That is extremely powerful. So thank you so much for making sure that all of our children are heard and seen.
I can add to that. When Nick had called me and asked me to contribute to this book, I was really hesitant in the beginning. And then he really convinced me that this is an opportunity to have my voice heard in the world of social and emotional learning. And so my chapter is on social emotional learning for districts. And so my background is in therapy. I'm a licensed therapist, but I really got into working in education because of educator wellness. That's my focus. That's my passion. And I really want to make sure that we're taking care of our educators. And so I think this book was an opportunity to not just talk about the impact of social and emotional learning for students, but really the impact on educators and what we can do to support them as well.
Absolutely. And it really takes taking care of all stakeholders in order for us all to be successful. So fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
And I can kind of echo that. I was a little nervous when Nick reached out about writing a chapter, and I approached my chapter again as from a building principle. My district was a little different than other districts. We were in school. It looked different. We were some virtual, some not. But really what I focused on in my section was the importance of relationships, especially, I mean, we've all known that's been important in any building, but I feel that during COVID and post-COVID, it has become much more important, not just relationships with students and families, but also relationships with staff and staff with staff and staff with families. So that's kind of where I approached it, is like, how do we ensure we have good relationships? And the importance of those relationships? I mean, academics is definitely there, but we all know if a kid's and a family's basic needs are not being met, we're not going to get any academics. And I think that starts with having great relationships. So that was where I approached my chapter and kind of talked about some other ways that we've done that, and then the research behind the importance of that.
Absolutely. Relationships are definitely key. And, a lot of them have brought us through this period so far. So continuing to maintain those and bolster those. Absolutely.
I can say this is the first time I've written for something this large before, so it was a challenge, just to say the least. But my chapter is actually about the role of school librarians, and just like from the experience that we had, a lot of misinformation and the importance of media literacy, and so how school librarians can help support that, the teachers in the classroom and the students as they navigate this, because we all know, social media is a great platform, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I'm going to make sure that they're having the right facts at their fingertips.
Absolutely. Yes. That's become a matter of life and death in many cases. So absolutely. So thank you all so much for your amazing chapters. I learned so much through reading the book. It was so rich, just from a variety of different perspectives and a variety of different roles. So I absolutely loved reading the book. So why was contributing to this project important to you?
I think because I think anytime you have a big challenge in public education, it can either be a memory that like just impacts you and makes you kind of upset and sour, or it could be something that you grow and learn from. So it's like we all went through this, and it's up to us that even though that was outside of our control, what is within our control is what we do as a result of it. And so I guess it's interesting. Now every one of us are going to be educators that went through this. And with every passing year, there's going to be less and less of us that did. And so I guess I'm proud to be a group of people that it's like, now we have something. We made something positive as a result of this experience. And now it's kind of archived forever. And if anything, it'll be interesting to kind of see 10, 20, 30 years from now, we've got ourselves a little time capsule, and we kind of look back and say, hey, we each wrote a chapter on a topic. How right were we? How much did something change and get impacted as a result of this?
For myself, It was vastly important because we know we normally hear the term summer slide or summer regression for some of our students, and now we hear COVID regression. And with students that already are behind in some ways due to their disabilities, that became more pronounced. So we actually kept our doors open as well during COVID. For academics, we were virtual, but it was essential that my students had access to their related service, be it physical therapy, occupational therapy, even assistive technology, because a lot of them are nonverbal and their devices were their voices. So it was pretty tough during that time. And that was the inspiration for me because there was a lot of different moving pieces to that, as well as, I'm not quite sure if everyone is aware, but the federal government during the time of COVID never relaxed the requirements of IEPs. So we still had to have annual meetings for IEPs, evaluations, and things of that nature. They never relaxed those requirements, and I don't blame them. Look at the history again, and so we just had to find ways to make it work.
I think that for me, social and emotional learning was it was a trendy topic before the pandemic, and I think it just exploded after the pandemic. And so, a lot of schools and a lot of districts, I think, really had to pivot and focus so much on those social and emotional skills and those relationships in order to be able to continue to relate to their students and to get them back in the doors once schools opened back up for those that closed. And so I think having the opportunity to write this chapter just really kind of gives a little bit of a framework for schools who are wanting some suggestions of how do I support the social and emotional needs of my students, and how do I continue to increase those now that we are all back in school and moving forward, and how do I make sure that they have those skills to be able to be successful in life.
I think for me, I looked at the pandemic. I think there's a lot of horrible things that happened during that, but we also had a lot of opportunities. And this was an opportunity I felt for us to reimagine education, because I think we've talked about, we've been doing this the same way for the last 100 years. And people talked about change, but we've never. I think we now have an opportunity to really look at that, be it special education services for students. Like how can we reimagine that so they're successful again? SEL, everything that, all the great people that wrote this book, as I look through their stuff, I mean, we have an opportunity now to really implement some really great change to benefit our students and our families. So I think this is an opportunity as a nation to reimagine education for kids, and I'm optimistic about that. I know it's going to take a lot. You don't turn a battleship, in a river, so it's going to take some time.
So who is the audience for the post-COVID school?
I think more than anything, it's virtually anybody that's in public education. I mean, we've got a chapter, whether you teach reading, whether you lead a media center / library, or anything else in between, there's a part of this book that relates to you. So whether you're teacher, support staff, administrator, principal, we've got it all. And so I think that's what's kind of unique, and what I think I like about this book. A lot of time educational books are kind of related to a certain realm or a certain experience or a certain position. And this kind of relates to anybody.
The only thing that I would add is that I think it's really important to consider how wide the audience for this book could be. I think that those that are in education or affiliated with education will absolutely find tremendous value in this book. But I also think other members of the community don't necessarily understand what school systems went through during the pandemic. And this is an opportunity for them to take a look inside and to understand, what it looked like before, what it was like going through the pandemic, and what educators and administrators are going through on the other side of it. So I think it just kind of opens that door and lets people take a peek inside and gives them some of that information, answers those questions that maybe they've had and didn't have some understanding around.
Absolutely. You said it. I mean, it's pretty, the book is like a window into what's going on right now. So absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing that.
one of the things that I would like to add as far as the audience, if many of us are in schools now, but there were a lot of federal dollars that came to assist districts as a result of the pandemic. They're called ESSER dollars. And in my section on like specifically what we should be looking to do for, in particular, students with special needs, this audience would impact special ed cooperatives or even general ed districts that have students with special needs. I focused on specifically what you can do with those dollars that our students really regressed in. Minutes. I mean, we probably will never make up the compensatory minutes for students that during that lost time, but after school programs that you can implement, additional related service people throughout the day that you can implement. And so I believe not just my chapter, but many chapters. There's another Arthur who's a superintendent. She was supposed to join me, but couldn't. And I think she spoke on cultural relevance. So there's this book covers the gamut of education, both not only for K-12, but I even think at a higher ed level where we're training teachers to go into education.
Absolutely. That teacher preparation piece is key. This would be a great read for anyone in a teacher prep program. Absolutely. What other resources do you suggest for readers and where can they find you?
I think more than anything, a lot of the resources that I would point people to is like the research and articles that we kind of cite and use in this book. I think what I like about this is there's certainly opinions, but there's also a lot of recommendations based upon substance and research. And where they can specifically find me is I'm always lurking around on Twitter. I've been a fan of Twitter for a long time. So at Dr. Nick Sutton is a pretty easy place to find me, and I think I'm pretty accessible.
They can just Google my name. I'm at Speed Special Ed Cooperative. You can reach me by my email address there. I'm on Twitter as Dr. Tina Halliman. I'm on Facebook as Tina McAfee Halliman. And I'm also on Instagram as Dr. Tina Halliman.
So I am newer to the social media aspect of marketing. So I am on Facebook and on Instagram, but mainly the same. If you Google me, you can reach me best by email if there's any questions that anyone has.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ddixonnv. I also do a podcast with another EduMatch author, and he's an author on this book, Kyle Anderson. We have a podcast called The Beer EDU. We talk about beer. We talk a lot about education. So we do that. And you can Google me too.
I will be honest. I had a recent name change because I got married. So yeah, thank you. So if you Google Holly Williams, there's a lot of those in the world. So there are, if you want to find me specifically, you'd have to look up my maiden name. So I don't know if you want to type that in the chat, Sarah, or
Sure.
how to spell that. Okay, it's Pantley, so it's Pantle. So it's just a little different, but you're welcome. I'm on Facebook as well. And welcome to look me up in email or whatever, but I'm not on Instagram or Twitter, so I'll have to be honest about that.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Congratulations.
you so much. Yes,
Wedding, Holly.
Thank you.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, we wanted to thank everybody who was on panel. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Dr. Nick, for organizing this project. Thank you to all of the fantastic contributors with the wonderful chapters. And in addition, wanted to thank everyone for watching. So if you are watching this, if you are listening to the podcast, that means that the book is available now. So you can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. You can find it on our website, edumatchpublishing.com. So definitely check it out. If you want to do a bulk order, which is 10 or more copies, and you can get a discount, so you can just email EduMatch books at edumatchers.org, and we'll get you that discount, and it'll be ready for your book study or whatever you choose to do with it. So we really want to thank you so much again for tuning in. Tune in actually next week, and you might see a familiar face on for the launch. Yes, it is the launch of yours truly's first book through EduMatch. Not my first book, but my first book
Wow.
through EduMatch. So we'll have a launch in about a week. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and congratulations again to everyone who was a part of this fantastic work. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.
It's EduMatch.